So last class we were discussing about goals of parallel computing. 1 minute. Okay. Somebody has knocked. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So parallel programming and computational thinking. That was a chapter name as such. So in the parallel computing, what are the goals of parallel computing? If anybody can remember that, so just name it. What were the goals? Whatever the computational problem or something you want to achieve, say maybe factorial of a number or sorting of an array, some problem statement which was taking larger amount of time, you just want to reduce the amount of time it has to take for that particular computation. So basically the reduction in the time is the first objective or the goal of a parallel computation as such. So once reduction of a time, so that somewhere speaks about fixed problem statement, so or availability of scope of parallelism or concurrency in that given problem statement. Somewhere we discussed Amdahl's law about that. So even there is 96% of I'm referring to the previous example, whatever I quoted in the previous class as such. So there was scope for 96 percentage of parallel or concurrency. 4% was ought to be executed in a sequential mode. So in spite of that, that parallel, whenever we had somewhere around 16 cores or 16 processors to implement the same problem statement, the improvement was somewhere around 25 times. So what he's stating is it worth the investment or return on investment whenever you are speaking or thinking from the problem statement? So you have to debate about that aspect as such. So first one was with respect to time, and that Amdahl's law was stated about that. Then the second one was the Gustafson's law, which states about the scalability of the problem statement with respect to computational facilities. So whenever we take up the larger number of cores or large memory, so whatever the parallel aspect we can think of, whenever we enhance that, whatever is available for us, can we take up a large or the increased or scaled problem statement? So that speaks about bigger problem statements. So whenever we have a problem statement, genetic computing or the gene computing, weather forecasting, something you can imagine, say problem statement increases or I can take more data to analyze. That's also one aspect of the goal of the parallel computing as such. The third one was with respect to the better solutions. So better solutions, I say, indicate by stars. So increase, decrease, say star is better computation or better solutions. So I give an example of my experience with respect to Institute Formal Verifier, a cadence tool, where you had different algorithms to test a particular IP or the intellectual property, so that they focus on targeting particular of corner cases. Say the name nomenclature or the names were quite a bit different, something like a hammer, scissors, sword, kind of stuff. So internally, they were not disclosing the algorithms that were targeting the bugs as such, but these were the tools that was running parallelly, so that you attempt to target all the bugs possible with the different algorithms as such. So that's where parallel heads or the parallel computation helps you to solve that. Then the second aspect was with respect to the problem decomposition or computational thinking. So what is meant by problem decomposition is basically, if you are say right now you are doing a project, so how do you formulate a problem statements and your objectives, that speaks about this entire circus about problem decomposition. Uh, Say home automation or intruder or alert, something of that problem statement will be there. And so basically some marketing strategy or marketing person will say that these are requirements from the market. So he doesn't say that you have to implement X-ray, IR. Say, how do you know there is an intrusion or something of that sort? So it is up to the technical engineer to jot down to very specific objectives as such. Say there is a person entering without authentication, something whenever you boil down. So then what should happen? How do you identify that? So from customer requirement specification to functional requirement specifications, and then finally to the design aspect of this. So how do you choose a sensor, and how do you map with respect to the bill of materials, and make overall thing to fit in the budget whatever you have planned for. So that entire goals are with respect to problem decomposition aspect as such. So that there is a bigger problem, you divide that bigger problem into smaller problem statements, so which you call normally as objectives, and internally there can be replacements of the alternatives for the abstract levels. Whenever I say that I will communicate through GSM modem, I may not be realistically knowing how GSM works and other things. Basically, there is abstraction. So, what is abstraction? You just connect the GSM modem through some RS-232 or some serial port to your whatever the board of working. So serial port through which I connect, so I have to adjust about it, and whenever I send a message through AT&T commands or something of that sort, so it is none of my botheration how it gets really sent over that GSM modem. So what are the layers, or the how does it get to other physical layer, and how that it gets decoded. So there is some level of abstractions in problem solving as such. So something is hidden, and you initially divide entire problem statement at architecture level. Then whenever you really want to solve that minors or the objectives or the sub modules as such, so then you get into the details as such, because if you start solving entire problem at once, or the details at once, so most oftenly devil lies in the details, and you may not be able to or even dare enough to solve that, or think of solving at that. So dividing the problem into smaller chunks and then attempting to rule them is a better approach. So here, technically, he has given some nomenclature such as gather and scatter. So gather is about some kernel is gathering information, so that it is fetching something from the shared memory. How do you fetch something or whatever is required from different resources, maybe memory or IO or whatever you can think of. So you gather the resources, and scatter. How do you divide that or distribute among the kernels or whatever whoever is demanding for those resources. So computation, after that you have to write down the answers back to the original position, something of that sort. So that is gathering and scattering, or thread arrangements, how to divide, or simply a fork and join approach. So if there is a bigger problem statements, you are divided into smaller problem statements. So individually they are given to certain teams or certain boards, whatever you can think of at whatever levels. So whenever they compete, or the say complete, not complete. So whenever they complete, how do you gather back them, or join them, or stitch them together, or integration is a last step or final step. So forking and joining is also important whenever you think from the problem decomposition perspective. So how do you divide? So there is a concurrency. Whenever there is a concurrency, you divide among the devices. So host machine to is with respect to heterogeneous computing I'm stating. So there is a parallelism concurrency. Now I divert that concurrency to the devices of the target machine, of the devices or GPU devices. After the GPU devices compute that, they will divert back the results back to the host machine. So again, where you will execute sequentially. So there is a proper approach should be there for the problem decompositions. In your textbook, he has taken for the LX2 static potential map or build up over a particular atom by with respect to its neighboring atoms, and the algorithms, how much radius, or which atoms to be considered, which atoms should not be considered, whether there should be a tiling, and some algorithm are discussed with respect to problem decompositions. So another aspect was algorithm selection. So whenever you choose algorithm, or how do you choose algorithm? Say I just want my functionality, whatever is expected is sorting. I give an array of unsorted elements, and finally I expect a sorted array. Whenever you have a requirement, and there are a number of, say you start from bubble sort, bucket sort, insertion sort, and so on. So whenever you choose algorithms, ultimately there is a trade-off, and finally you want to arrive at some say some may require large memory, some may compute faster. So area, speed, and whatever the VLSI tripillars as such, area, speed, and power, something of that sort will always be there. But ultimately what is the algorithm selection states, or the parameters that are to be considered is one is definiteness. Definiteness is there is a precise number of steps So how an algorithm folds. So first is done what should be done first and what should be done next. There is a precise order in which you have to follow, and most oftenly it is always converging. So the finite number of steps, and there is a result after the finite number of steps as such. So then effective computation capability. So effective computability, so I will just write computability as such. There should be proper computation of the number of computations, how many computations have happened, so that you can compare. Say we had something like a n log n and other aspects whenever we were discussing the conversion theory or entire matrix multiplication and so on. So how much computation has happened, and this is finally finiteness. Say it should not take more time of the, it should converge somewhere. So convergence is a major aspect of algorithm selections. Start from definiteness, effective computation, and effective computability, and finally the convergence as such. So again the same electrostatic the potential buildup is taken, and one more example with respect to cutoff of summation algorithms. How do you consider with respect to blocks or the distance and so on, that is discussed. So I just wind it over there. Then computational thinking, how do you think computationally? So you should know something about the hardware. Say why electronics where electronics engineers has an upper hand with respect to computer science engineer is basically when you know there are specific instructions, something like count leading zero, CLZ instruction is there in ARM, or the there are specific instructions, say something like I just forgot that Q center, the Q number representation instructions. So Q add, Q dad, and there were some instruction in ARM, something of that sort. If the hardware is ready for it, most often whenever you program, say C compiler, or they are more generic in nature, so they are meant for a particular kind of a generic approach. So computational history as such. If there is a hardware and your computation is requiring that kind of computations, and your compiler is not using the hardware much effectively, that means a programmer should be much aware of the computer architecture whatever he is using, so that he can exploit it to the largest extent. So computer architecture knowledge is one aspect which has to be thought whenever you thinking of a computational thinking as such. So otherwise, normal sequencing, we just give a ticket collector, or your queue standing in a queue, and you have to distribute some 10 letters around different areas of the other, and so on. So how do you plan is basically a basic aspect of computational thinking. Other than that, whenever you put onto machine, or you have to delegate that job. So if you, some junior asks you to how to do it particular aspect, so that what should be done first and what should be done next, whenever you are telling that, that is what is meant by computational thinking as such, or knowledge transfer for that matter. So program models and compilers, so you should also be aware of what you are choosing. Whenever we discuss the next chapter is about OpenCL or Open Computing Language as such. All these days of the entire syllabus, we were discussing about CUDA compilation. So CUDA is very specific to the NVIDIA GPUs as such. So whenever I have ATI, Radeon, or AMD, or so Intel graphic processors, so, and that may not be much working with respect to the very specific, something like OEM kind of stuff, original equipment manufacturer kind of stuff, which is very specific to that particular processor or device or the equipment as such. So whenever you are using compiler, how much facility that is available in the hardware that can be exploited, and what are the constructs available and APIs available, that has to be debated, and whether you want to have a for whom you are working, whether you are working inside a say, service company, then most oftenly you are happy with the portable code rather than the company specific or the OEM kind of code. So you have to choose appropriately the compilers as well. So algorithms and technique, as was stated, tiling, cutoff, scatter, gather, and so there will be a trade-off. So how many times you want to speak to global memory, or I just want to have a more number of processors, and that gets into a debate or trade-off. What I am investing on, or what is a return on investment, and ultimately choose one or the other device. So one may be having a more memory or more shared memory, one may be having more processor in a particular grid dimensions. So which again you have to think from the functionality perspective, or whatever you are implementing there, then you can judge better. So that has to be there, algorithm of technique. So domain knowledge, numerical methods, what you are doing, and if you have that particular aspect, accuracy. So how much accuracy is really required? Can you round off the things to get the things working? So that comes only with respect to so domain knowledge. So whenever I say that microampere, picoampere, or amperes can be rounded off or not, so that if I'm speaking, strictly speaking, with respect to electrical domain as such. Again, whenever you are working with other interdisciplinary as such, say 0.5 pascals of the whenever somebody states some pressure or some units with respect to any sensor values, so ultimately it may be some voltage or currents, but basically you should know that can it be rounded off, or it is to be considered seriously to the what is very precisely or accurately. So what should be the resolution for that particular aspect? For that you require what is it, um, domain knowledge. So that's where we can see that this was what discussed in the um, chapter called as a parallel computation, parallel programming and computational thinking. Any doubts, you are free to ask. Okay, I just had slides, but I don't want to go through this, but just glance through this. Say problem decomposition and abstraction. So instead of solving a bigger problem, divide into smaller chunks. So system partitioning, that was a step forward in your VLSI chain, or the what is it, block diagram. How do you attempt solving any problem as such? System partitioning is one step. What are the advantages of small problems? You can address it. So you can have alternative solutions or plan A, plan B for that particular smaller objectives as such. So if I'm not able to do this, is there anything ready-made available? I can just plug and play over there in my project. So should I design a Bluetooth connector, or I should purchase one and just plug it and make it work? So you should identify that smaller chunks as such. So driving into the details. So initially, if you want to plan, so how do you design a motherboard entirely? Starting thinking from the whenever you open up your PC or laptop and motherboards, and how you feel that 13-layer PCB with a innumerable number of components, it may seem almost impossible to design one. But whenever you start thinking from north bridge, south bridge, or USB port, or the Ethernet, so smaller chunks. So later part, you just identifying the TLMs or the transaction level models. So what I'm taking in and what I'm giving out. So basically, what of the BB design, black box design. So inside what happens, so that's left to designer as such. But make sure that you have divided into all. Okay, the things which can be handled by a particular person or team as such. So conceivable amount of problem statement should be there with respect to that submodels. So then the problem seems to be attemptable, or you can go ahead or solve that. Once you solve that, the individual nibbles. So finally you can have an entire meal. So he's taking one game design as such. So tic tac toe, and how do you make sure that you take the tick or tack, and the graphics appearance, display board, make a move, and count the number of ticks or toes in a row, horizontal or vertical or diagonal. Is it solved? How to decide? So there are different aspects of the whenever you decompose, check 3 rows, check 3 columns. So he's doing it sequentially. So, checking a row, checking a column, checking a diagonal is your sub modules or sub objectives of the how he has divided the particular problem statements. Okay, this is game design he has taken, and I just don't want to drag it. Okay. The next chapter in line is your OpenCL, and anybody wants to address a question why OpenCL as such? Whenever you search OpenCL, you may even have some descriptions like this is OpenCL, fine. Okay, and I will showcase some of the very specific and strange questions as such. OpenCL, fine. Ah, OpenCL is dead. So C++ for is dead on arrival. If people weren't going to In spite of this, why we are going for this basically is for whenever you search in the net for the GPU devices. I just had made a search for that matter, NVIDIA, AMD, ASUS. So these are the again, you can go for different search engines or the websites for that matter. So there are innumerable number of graphics card vendors as such. They prepare their graphics card, and with respect to which we are computing the normal scientific computations. We wanted to address it. So not only graphics, uh, at least for this course, whenever we are targeting that. Then why or what made people to think of OpenCL or open computing language? So it was a Cronus group that is maintaining this OpenCL, or they are developing the APIs, application program interface, something similar to your CUDA, get device, CUDA, memcopy, whatever the APIs you are using in CUDA. So they were developed by NVIDIA, and they are very specific to NVIDIA GPUs as such. If somebody wants to write a code and he just don't want to be very specific with respect to that particular device as such, so I don't want to work for NVIDIA for my lifetime. So, or most often you are working in a service company, you are not working in NVIDIA or NVIDIA oriented products as such. So then most often you prefer OpenCL over CUDA, because um, you can support other uh, GPUs as well. So you are writing a generic C code where the compilers of the people have agreed upon, so that there is a proper compilation, and then it gets compiled over there. So there is some ambiguity with or some aspect of the hardware support is provided in the NVIDIA GPUs called as a just-in-time compilations or just-in-time build that we discussed whenever we discussing CUDA or NVIDIA processors. So it is not so in terms of OpenCL. There is a compilation and job queue or the task queue is more pronounced in the OpenCL kind of environment. We will look into the further aspects also. To be brief, or before jumping, just bird's eye view or the glimpse of that OpenCL is this is what it states about that. ATA initially, and then later it was acquired by AMD, and what we will be discussing is what is OpenCL. Um, Execution model, OpenCL platform or memory models. So something similar to what are the memories available for the CUDA, we discussed registers, shared memory, constant memory, texture memory, and so on. So something similar to that, there are memories associated with OpenCL languages as such. And how do you addressed in CUDA, say there were grids, blocks, and threads. Similar to that, there should be some resources. How do you handle that heterogeneous computing resource setup? So setup and resource allocation had to be discussed. So there is a host code and kernel code that was discussed in the CUDA, and similarly there is a kernel execution and how do you synchronize. Parallel synchronization was discussed whenever discussing the CUDA program for that matter. So normally C is the language, or C++ is the language that is used in CUDA as well as in the OpenCL. That is same as such, but there are API differences and language features, whatever are common and different can be discussed. Okay, what we can do with OpenCL? With OpenCL, we can leverage CPUs and GPUs other processors such as Cell BE. So BE stands for broadcast engine as such. So Cell BE is, and again basically whatever you call it as a streaming multiprocessor. So the same aspect comes in a BE. So broadcast engine as such, and DSP to accelerate parallel computations. So you can enhance the scientific computations. Most often, whenever I say DSP is it's most often scientific computations, get dramatic speedups and computationally intensive applications. So somewhere around we have an example with respect to previous chapter. 200 hours was reduced to 4 hours in terms of computations whenever we start using the parallel computation as such. Write accelerated portable code across different devices and architectures. Say portable code. So this word is more important with respect to OpenCL compared to the CUDA. CUDA is uh, portable across NVIDIA devices, but not across different vendor devices, or say AMD or Intel or ASUS whenever we discussed, or Gigabyte for that matter. So you cannot have that portability whenever you write a CUDA code. CUDA is very specific to NVIDIA, and the NVIDIA boards of the NVIDIA graphic cards are able to compile because there is a just-in-time compilation or just-in-time build is available. That is not expected, or is not happening whenever you have a OpenCL. So you want to write a OpenCL code and how to make it happen. So that is discussed. So AMD is OpenCL. Again, AMD has mentoring with respect to OpenCL. You can leverage AMD CPUs. So any specific, again, something similar to CUDA is NVIDIA, and OpenCL supposed to be, whenever you look into this OpenCL from Wikipedia, starting from the Apple, now the developers are Cronus, and the mentors are AMDs, or you are having the APIs more familiar to AMDs, because whenever you look into the market, the graphics card vendors, more close competition is with respect to NVIDIA and AMD. So ATI observed, now AMD has acquired it. With respect to both those two, other than that, there are different vendors as such, but OpenCL's main target is to make portable across different vendors. So because these slides are from AMD, and that may be added over there. Okay, so kernel built unit function executed similar to the C function, as we have stated, double underscore global double underscore. So how do we define a kernel function in CUDA was double underscore global. So similar to that, a single underscore kernel is a keyword which defines a function or makes a function which has to be run onto the devices. So that means not on the host machines, so some other devices as such, or the GPU, or any other device for that matter. So what you are expecting in the kernel is basically DAS, the data level parallelism. So data level parallelism is whenever you are operating, say, most of the data are available parallelly, so that vector addition kind of stuff can happen. Or task level parallelism is basically whenever you have more functional units, so adder, multiplier, or vector computations. Depending on that, you can accomplish that particular task. So kernel is basically a function targeted to run on a device. Program collection of kernels and other functions. So ultimately a program accomplishes certain kind of functionality, and hence it is a collection of kernels or functions as such. So it is analogous to dynamic library because it's a collection of functions as such. Applications queue kernel execution instances. So this is where it differs from the NVIDIA's. NVIDIA distributes that kernels of the just-in-time build across different devices, and that threads run on to the different devices. Now, how it is different is basically there's a queue in order, because you compile it, you have built a code, and the how the kernel should run. So, is there a sequential dependency? That means they have to run one after the other, queued in order. Execution out of order is basically if something is ready and all the parameters required by that particular kernel are ready, that can be triggered or event based. So, then run that particular thread or kernel. So that speaks about out of order execution. So basically there is a job queue or task queue which tries to accomplish this. Okay. So define n-dimensional computational domain. So it is something similar to your grid in CUDA as such. So you are defining that block grids. So how many in x direction, y direction, and z directions. Similarly, n-dimensional computations of the ND domain is a keyword that is used for. So whenever you say that ND, so you are having the dimensions. Each independent element execution in ND domain is called as a work item. Work item is nothing but a thread. So individual thread in CUDA is identified as a work item in OpenCL. The ND domain defines the total number of work items that can execute in parallel. So example, one example he has taken 1024 and 1024 image, global problems dimensions, one kernel execution per pixel. So that means total so many kernels will execute in this problem statements as such. So scalar computations, you have iterative loops as such. Whenever you have a kernel void, say this is a kernel definition, so double underscore global double underscore was there with respect to the CUDA code as such. Now the same kind of stuff, you pass a pointers, so inside that you get a global ID, get CUDA, get device property, something of that sort. So you want to have that thread dimensions, thread ID x dot x and something, say whenever you want to have a global ID, so block dimension into that ID, block ID into block dimensions plus thread ID x dot x of the offset, whatever you get that. So that will be made available whenever you have this API get underscore global underscore ID is 0. So as we are jumping directly into OpenCL, we are not having a methodical or structured study of OpenCL for that matter. We are just learning OpenCL in comparison with CUDA as such. So whenever you are asked to write a code or exploit OpenCL, you should be able to glance through the data manuals as quickly as possible, because you already have some basic knowledge what was required for the parallel computation. So parallel computation or massive parallel computation is what is to be primary focus around which you are moving around. Okay. So expressing data parallelism in OpenCell, kernels execute across a global domain called as a work items or threads. Global dimensions define range of computations. So how do you identify them? So grids. So one work item per computation executed in parallel. That is again threads of the if you can think of that, you can visualize that. Work items are grouped in local work groups. So now you can call this work group as a blocks. So work items are grouped together to form a work groups or blocks, as in case of CUDA. Uh, Local dimensions define the size of work groups. Again, threads can be spawned across the different dimensions. Thread, as we stated, X, Y, Z dimensions. So that is normally taken as one in CUDA, and similarly the other versions that can happen over here as well. Executed together on a one device, share local memory and for synchronization. So there is a shared memory. So every block can have a shared memory. So all the threads within that particular block can have the sharing in that memory as such. So called as a shared memory. So what are the threads? Global work items must be independent, no global synchronization, because again, who is writing and what are the order of reads and writes? There's no proper sequencing, then you may corrupt the data, and you should keep track of that. So global synchronization is not available. Whereas how do I make it happen with respect to the shared memory? So no, you have a that barricades. So barrier or barrier synchronizations are available. Something similar constructs are available in OpenCL as well. But global, yes, there's a hurdle, and you have to resolve it much appropriately. Synchronization, so you have flags and other bits can be added for that matter. So something dirty, valid, and so on. So we'll discuss it whenever come across that. Synchronization can be done within a work group. So that can be done with respect to within a work group by incorporating synchronizations or the barriers. So again, he is stating global dimensions. So the threads are there, local dimensions. You have a tiled executions, or you are creating a blocks. So okay, work groups, and you complete that, then only you can have that. So a synchronization is within a block, okay, or within a work groups. So that's what is stated whenever you say that cannot synchronize outside the work group. So all the threads within this group can be synchronized. So no synchronization, because there is no shared memory across blocks as such. Across blocks, it's global memory. Okay. So again, the one dimension, two dimension, as we were discussing in either in grids, blocks, the similar kind of constructs are available whenever we are discussing with respect to OpenCL. There you had a DIME3 and DIME2 and different constructs to so that they indicates two-dimensional or three-dimensional numbers. So whenever I say DIME3 grid, so grid is three dimensions, so that is automatically known as such. Similar to that, global dimensions three. So now whenever he is declaring three-dimensional, two-dimensional, and so on. So how do you declare that and how do you access that? That is showcased over there. So best of your algorithm. What best is basically for that in CUDA we had that CUDA get devices. So how many blocks are permitted in a given CUDA device or the GPU device, and how many threads across each dimensions, that was fixed, and hence somewhere you have to fix up these numbers so that they are feasible for that particular device. So that's what is meant by maps well or performance well. So synchronization with within work items, there was barriers. Okay, here also there are barriers and memory fences to synchronize memory access. Memory fences again shared memory is within a block. So anything above that, and then you may go for something is constant memory. So that was with respect to CUDA devices. We'll look into the memory architecture with respect to a normal or general architectures compared to CUDA devices. So that is what is the by OpenCL. Algorithms you require within our groups, you can go for reduction between kernels, multipass. Okay, fine. So memory model. Just complete this memory model, and I think we'll wind up for today. Okay, barriers are not there. You should define within a work group, so blocks and shared memory. If you can remember or reconnect that, that's what he is discussing in this particular slide as such. So whenever you are looking these elements, a processing element is something similar to a streaming multiprocessor, and computing unit is something like a streaming processor. And this is your host machine, and these are the GPU devices. OpenCL is you uh, delegate the job from the host machine to, or wherever the concurrency is there, that can be delegated to the these streaming or processing elements of these in OpenCL concept as such. Uh, a connect one or more computing units, of course. Most oftenly in this entire course, there is a possibility in one host system can accompany or can host more than one GPU cards. So there will be constraints available for that. But other than that, to make it to enhance simplicity for the we are using only one GPU per host machine, and hence which GPU or GPU IDs and that constructs or APIs related to that most often are masked in the discussions of these textbooks as such. Okay. So this is OpenCL memory model. So whenever you look into the OpenCL memory model, say there is a private memory. What is meant by private memory? In normal computer architecture, we called it as a cache or the local cache for that matter. But with respect to OpenCL model, we can it is synonym to registers for that matter. Work item is threads. So private memory is pertaining to only that particular thread, and that means the registers are the private memory. Local memory is across work items. So within a work group, you are having a local memory, that is a shared memory in case of CUDA devices. Okay. So global memory is the memory with respect to the that GPU. So at DRAM, what was visualized as a global memory in the CUDA device, and the same thing will be available over here. See, host memory is something available in the host devices, in which you have to pass it on with respect to CUDA, memcopy, or code. After allocation of the memory, so you pass on the pointers and finally copy the content from host machine to the global memory, and then make whatever the computation you want to make within the devices. After the computation is completed, again from this global memory to host memory, the result has to be passed on back. Okay. Other than that, what has to be remembered, you have to showcase a private memory. Normally we are registers. So work item is thread. So local memory is shared memory, and work group is your block with respect to coded devices. Global constant memory is same. So normally we had two memories in the CUDA devices for that matter. Global was slower, constant memory was something faster compared to the global memory. So that there is some kind of caching or the cache kind of architecture is available with respect to constant memory, which are not changing during the duration of the computation. So most often those kind of variables were being stored in the constant memory, which can be fetched by the streaming multiprocessors as such. Okay. So what you have to set up, basically you have to plan for that grid formation, and within a device how many which threads are computing what. So you just recollect the example of say tiling or image processing. So there can be dummies, and there can be extra threads formed, so which should be neglected. So similar to that, how many across each dimension should be planned. So GPU, CPU, or the cell, or broadcasting engines. Context basically is about grid formations, so collection of devices. So how do you form your work groups and work items within our groups? So that is what is meant by context, and this OpenCL setup as such. Queues. So this is additional job. That means your code is compiled, and that has to be loaded into work queues for execution. So normally just-in-time build that was happening in the CUDA devices, and devices were appropriately loaded with respect to the runtime code. Now that has to be queued up, and they have to make their way through a queue. So buffer is again blocks of memory. How do you manage buffers of the memory with respect to the work items and work groups? Images. So this is very particular to making these devices work as image processing devices or graphic processing unit as such. So in 2D or 3D images formats, how do you load pixels or voxels? So volume pixels. So 3D pictures for that matter. So how do you load them onto the things will be dealt with respect to memory aspects as such. Execution program collection of kernels. So how do you write a code? Basically, there is a host code and which is calling the kernels to get the things which can run concurrently. Kernels are you have to pass the pointers or the arguments or the parameters to the kernels so that the things can work around. Synchronizations. So normally you would had a barrier synchronizations or the profiling is about who is doing what or how much time is uh, taken in serial computation or the parallel computation. That is, I'm speaking of profiling. Synchronization is basically some event. So everybody has finished, so creates an event, and then you can move on to the next iteration. Something of that sort has to be thought of. So OpenCL framework converts, I think we'll discuss in the next class as such. Any doubts? Please free to ask. Okay. So shall we close? So if there are any doubts, again you are free to put it onto the classroom streaming. So you write your question and it will be helpful for everybody. Okay, then I will. I think